So much of the talk regarding healing the planet is about climate solutions.
But what if the real breakthrough starts with ritual?
In a time defined by disconnection and fear, can we ritualize the return to healthy places, communities, and planet? To root again in the living systems we call home? Many of us are waking up to a deeply sobering truth that we are living inside a story of separation. Naturally, we see it from a variety of angles, but the core realization is the same. We've forgotten how to belong to each other, to all of life, to our places and planet. All over the world, people are seeing this more clearly. We might name it differently: colonization, cultural or ecological grief, climate crisis, collapse. And this forgetting carries a weight of suffering.
It shows up in our bodies, in our communities, in anxiety, loneliness, addiction, disconnection. We are evolved to belong.
But what people all over the world are discovering is that this pain and the story of separation don't have to be the end. If we can meet this realization with heroic courage, great meaning and purpose is ours to discover, and a new story is to be written. The path to wholeness begins not with certainty of the way, but certainty that ways exist. And there are many already well along pathways of reconnection and shining lights for all of us to see. And a lot of people are seeing these lights. For example, countless souls have been inspired by the regenerative farming practices of Gabe Brown in North Dakota. His story was featured in Kiss the Ground, a film seen by over
100 million people.
What Brown and others like him are doing is rediscovering a regenerative way to be, restoring balance with the way they farm, attuning to and harmonizing with the living processes within the land. Humans know how to grow food while restoring life. Gabe and many other farmers like him came to see the dominant system is blind to its extractive ways. And instead of giving up, they listened, learned, and found their way back to stewardship of the lands they love. So if there are tens, if not hundreds of millions of people awakening to the regenerative farming movement and the ways it's healing our food systems beyond the story of separation, how many more movements are responding in a similar way? Think of how many people are healing the story of separation through things like ecological restoration and trauma-informed community healing.
So the question then becomes, if so many are feeling the ache of disconnection, then how do we return with skill and intention, like life and future flourishing depend on it?
How do we begin as individuals and collectives even before we feel ready or even know the way? Well, maybe it's no surprise that the answer is also a return. A return to one of the oldest and most powerful cultural technologies humans have ever known. I'm talking about ritual. Now allow me to explain, because this word does carry weight and many associations. Ritual isn't dogma, it's not rigid tradition. It's not something only reserved for religious authorities or elites. Ritual has been part of human life for at least many tens of thousands of years. And even now, we often practice it without naming it. Maybe it's a quiet moment of reflection with your morning coffee, a weekly family dinner, lighting a candle on an anniversary. It can be simple, and it can be profound. But good rituals always change us for the better. Rituals formed with wisdom and intention help us grow. They help us remember who we are and become who we are meant to be. But how do they work? How can they be such a transformational practice? Well, we can see this more clearly when we take a broad look at the psyche and its main parts. The psyche is the full landscape of our inner life, our thoughts, feelings, instincts, memories, and imagination. And a huge part of that landscape is the subconscious, which is partly under the surface of our awareness. It's where our habits live, our automatic behaviors, our beliefs, the stories we've absorbed, both those that strengthen us and those that weaken who we are. The subconscious quietly shapes how we relate to fear, to faith, to possibility. While the conscious mind focuses on what's right in front of us, the subconscious is constantly shaping how we see the world, and therefore how we move through it. So now speaking directly to how this relates to the functions of ritual. The subconscious doesn't just live in the mind, it lives in the body, in our posture, our breath, our gestures, our tension, our rhythm. When we move with emotion, we are rewiring. When we move with emotion and intention, we're acting as the gardeners of our own becoming. When we do something over and over, we plant it deeply in our subconscious, making it evermore a part of who we are. Ritual gives us a scaffolding so we can act out who we want to be. It enables us to live and practice it into our nervous system, into our very being, even before we fully believe it. It anchors us in the truths we aspire to represent before we feel confident to do so, and while our subconscious is catching up. Which means we don't need to wait until we feel ready to change. We just need to know we want to change. We need to have a clear idea of what we want to become, and we need a ritual to guide the way, and a sincere, honest intention to begin and to keep going. I want to offer a personal experience to bring home the power of ritual, to make it concrete.
I've been navigating a complex disease for about a decade. It's an infection that's spread through my body, through my organs, my spinal cord.
For 3 or 4 years of that, my body was a dangerous place. My life was shaped by profound discomfort and constant uncertainty. There were long stretches where I didn't know if I would make it through. At some point, I realized that fear, doubt, and anxiety were compounding the problem. They were like poisons, not just mentally, but physically. I could feel how they taxed my immune system when it was already working overtime. I needed something that would help me to transcend these emotions when my reality was a very scary place.
No easy task.
Thankfully, I somehow came to believe in the power of gratitude. I developed a regular gratitude practice where no matter how I felt, I would focus on something, anything I could feel grateful for. Sometimes it was as simple as when my dog wiggles her tail, but she's got a serious face. That's pretty funny. It could be anything that helped me feel, even for a moment, that whatever was happening to me, life and the world were still full of beauty and wonder. That there's always something to be thankful for, no matter what is happening. It was often a great challenge to focus on gratitude when I hadn't slept in days, I had all sorts of weird symptoms I couldn't explain, and being in my body was just generally a profoundly uncomfortable experience. But I stayed with it. I was consistent like my life depended on it. And over time, something changed. That daily act, that ritual, started to shift something in my nervous system. It became a reflex. Now, when I feel fear or overwhelm, I often automatically reach for gratitude. Like a rope leading back to wholeness, transcending fear because I'm going up instead. It reminds me to be grateful for whatever healing has happened, rather than weighing down my immune system by focusing on worry.
This is powerful for raising my spirits and enabling more healing. This is what ritual can do. And these insights and reflexes didn't come right away.
It was the structure of ritual that I could rely upon that enabled them to form over time. Now back to you. Do you feel the story of separation in your own life? Do you notice the ache of disconnection from your body, from your community, from the land beneath your feet? If so, remember how many people have seen Kiss the Ground. You're not alone. This ache is surfacing in people around the world. So the question becomes, how do you begin when you don't feel ready? When you don't know the way? Well, not with perfection, not with certainty, so no pressure there. You just begin with one small act of sincerity. It might begin with some self-reflection. What parts of life have gone numb for you? What do you long to reconnect with? What reminds you that you're alive, now, in your place? Let these reflections sit with you. Listen to your intuition. Invite your creativity. Then give it some form. You just need to take one honest step with a commitment to keep walking. It might be a breath offered into the wind, a walk by the river while you listen, picking up litter, visiting a retirement home and seeing what conversations arise. Whatever it is, let it help you remember that you belong to life. You belong to your place. You belong there. And maybe you're not the only one carrying this feeling.
And perhaps someone close to you feels it too. They're just waiting for somebody to name it. And perhaps that one to name it is you.
Ritual, when shared, becomes even more powerful. It becomes a shared momentum that is stronger than individual fear. It forms accountability rooted in shared experience and shared becoming. And if you gather a group to ritualize the return to wholeness, be mindful of rituals that may already live in your place. There may be long-standing cultural practices held by indigenous communities, for example. Where they exist, see if it's appropriate to have a conversation with the stewards of local culture and see where things go. You may be offered some guidance, maybe even an invitation of some kind. Good intentions and showing up with sincerity always go a long way. Also, it helps if you come bearing thoughtful gifts. I can't say anything more than to attune to what is and be the best human you can be. In the end, rituals of return must be shared, because reconnection doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in relationship.
But the first relationship is the one that you have with your own subconscious.
And you grow that relationship with intention and care through ritual. So for the participatory story prompt, do you have any ideas yet for how to begin a simple ritual of return? Where might you start? Well, if you're struggling and would like a suggestion, remember that over 100 million people have seen Kiss the Ground, the film on regenerative farming. Maybe the first thing to do is to get on your hands and knees and give Mother Earth a big ol' smooch right on the ground. Start there. One small act of devotion, and maybe a little speck of dirt on your lips.